Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me for this week's episode of When I Grew Up. On today's episode, it is my pleasure to welcome my guest, Mike Huang. Hi Mike, how are you?
Hi, it's been many years since we connected, right? It's been about 17, 18 years. Crazy that we're crossing paths again.
No, it's really insane. Yeah, I mean, I didn't do the math like you did, but when you said that when we first got on, I was like, first
Oh
of all,
yeah.
how did
Yeah,
the
yeah,
time
yeah, yeah.
pass so fast? But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I met Mike, y'all, in my freshman year of college at UCI. And you were at Cal Poly, is that right?
Pomona. That
Yeah,
is
that's right,
correct.
Cal Poly
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pomona. And I had a mentor, like I guess a disciple leader, a small group leader, and um, you had the same kind of, was it that kind of relationship or like more of a discipleship relationship, friendship?
No, she's just a more of an older sister to
Yeah.
me, and she was a listening ear, and I really appreciated that. But not so much the, I guess, discipleship part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, we had a mutual friend, I guess, and
hmm
then
hmm
you would come hang out at UCI sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it's crazy that we're crossing paths again, and so with that, it's great to be on. First off, like, congratulations on your beautiful family. Congratulations
Oh,
on such a successful podcast. So,
that is
yeah.
so
So
sweet.
hopefully today, for me, I can talk to you like, two long lost friends catching up again, and then not so much a therapist. Hope
No,
hope that's okay.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
well, yes, I'm not gonna. I could talk about our personal lives probably forever, honestly, but and congratulations to you too. Mike is off social media, so I literally have not seen or heard from him in,
Mm,
like he said, 17 years. And it's so weird. So this week's podcast, Mike, that was released for the new season is our mutual friend Phil Jung's podcast, who
mhm.
I reached out to him and then I said, "Hey, like do you have anyone that would maybe be interested in sharing their story with me?" He connected me with you, not knowing that you and I already knew each other.
Mhm.
Which I
Yeah.
love so much because I feel like it's even more special that you've come on the podcast to share with me. So without further ado, Mike, what is it that you do?
So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in private practice.
Okay, so we've had a few, not a few, but I've had a couple MFTs on.
Mhm,
But each journey has been so different. And I
mhm.
feel like even what they do is a little bit different day to day. Could you tell me what a typical day for you as a licensed MFT looks like? So you have
Yeah,
you have a private practice?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I have a
Okay.
private practice.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pull back a little bit. And so I work probably 4 out of the 5 days in the office. So my one day, which are Mondays, are typically my admin days. So I'm following up on notes, research, and also participating in self-care. That's what I try to do, right?
Mm.
And so that's for my Mondays. And then so Tuesday through Fridays, I'm in the office doing clinical practice. So and on a given day, I'll probably meet with clients and probably 5 or 6 clients, for an hour, 50-minute an hour session. I can probably work through 5 clients. But if I do 6, then I know for me, I get a little burnt out. So I break it up three, three, a break in between and so forth. And so I see about 5 or 6 clients a day, but in between, throughout the week, I have breaks. And so with
Mm.
that, then I'll follow up with referrals and phone calls and doing notes. And also, I have my own therapy too. So in the middle of the week, I have my own therapist that I meet with and kind of process things. I also send out emails and do networking coffee chats with people and kind of introduce myself with the local churches, program managers, other therapists,
Mm.
and so forth. And so in a given week, that's what it kind of looks like. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I one thing that comes to mind, and you already kind of briefly talked about it just now.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, meeting with clients, I know it's your job, and I'm sure you love it, but yeah, does it get draining for you?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's hard. I know, one of the questions that you typically ask, your podcast
Uh-huh.
members is like, what is something you don't like about your job? You
Mhm.
know? And it's like, it's lonely sometimes, right? Because like the
Mm.
things that people tell me, is confidential and I hold it.
Right.
Right? It's not like I can go home and share with my wife, right? So I
That's
hold it,
right.
right? And so sometimes it does get hard. right? And so then, like, how do I release this energy, right? So I need to then work on healthy self-care, right? Smacking some golf
Mm,
balls, going for a drive, whatever it is. And so
mm.
I think those aspects can be hard sometimes. Sometimes holding on to that stuff.
So, what is it? I get okay. I haven't actually talked to an MFT that
Mhm.
is like a licensed private practice
Mhm.
person. So, what is a private practice?
Yeah, so private practice means then I kind of have my own space
Uh-huh.
and meet clients, sort of in a way saying cash pay, right? Private pay, right? Not through insurance, not at an agency,
Mm,
or a hospital or any of that, right? And so there's pros and cons whether you work for an agency or private practice, right? Private practice, right? I get to do the deeper work, right? I
mhm,
get to kind of focus on my specialty,
mhm,
right? And stuff like that. Well, if you go through an agency, you can utilize insurance, right? And there's a whole team of support that can support you. But also as a clinician, then it means then you work for a set number of hours, right? And for us, it's hard, um, some bureaucratic stuff that you gotta go through.
mhm,
Sometimes even if you want to help, maybe insurance will only cover 8 sessions, right? But the
mm,
work that I do is like the deeper emotional, intergenerational trauma work, right? So that's going to take a long time, right? Matters of the heart. And so for
mm.
me, for to be effective, I don't work in an agency. I work in private practice, and so yeah.
Are you categorized as a Christian therapist, or is that just like a
Yeah.
secondhand thing?
And so I actually work at Christian Counseling Center San Jose, right? That's
Okay.
where I work.
Okay.
But I do share with people that I do not do spiritual integration as part of my work, right? So I
Okay.
don't do prayer. I don't talk about the Bible and verses and what it means. I don't do sort of the spiritual director, spiritual formation, kind of the what is the Holy Spirit saying to you in this moment. I don't introduce that stuff,
Mm,
but still, I do believe the concept of grace, self-compassion are universal, and so those are some of the tenets that I do hold in my space. And so, yeah, yeah,
you mentioned just now, with your clients, you go on a deeper level of like generational, like things that you're kind of bringing out and trauma that's happened. Like, so,
mhm.
I guess I don't know how to ask this, but do you specialize in a particular like type of therapy? Like, would a specific client seek you out for something?
Yeah, yeah. And so for me, the work I love to do
Uh huh.
is trauma wounds, attachment wounds, and then the identity formation from there, right? So a lot of clients will experience something tough, and then you ask them, so what does that mean about you? I'm broken, I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable, I'm
Mm,
unsafe, right? I'm stupid, right? That's not true. That's not
mm,
true. Those are lies, right? Those are
mm,
expectations people put on you from society, your parents. Those are your parents' voices that are, pressing upon you. That's not true. You are worthy. You are trying your best,
mm,
right? And so then how do you start building a healthier relationship with yourself, like loving yourself, right? So that you can
mm,
show up the most genuine, authentic person you were meant to be. And so that's sort of the work that I love to do, right?
mm.
I think a part of like the difficult thing is how do you advertise this, right?
Right.
In a one-on-one call, like with you and me, like I can explain this and share this, but like on a Psychology Today, advertising page, how do you promote this? Right? It's a little hard, right? So that's why I do these networking calls with people. So therapists in the local area know what my specialty is. So when people say, I don't know what I'm meant to do with my life, right? Or hey, like I'm struggling with certain narratives, right? And so then I like to work with, right?
I see. I
Yeah.
don't know why it makes me emotional. Like you saying that. I don't know why. I guess I find those things very valuable and important. And I think I'm actually going through some of that myself. I mentioned to you before that like I had some postpartum after my children, and I'm after 6 years, I'm just now like remembering my identity in Jesus and like having a lot of breakthrough. So I think you saying that, I should have sought out therapy, I feel like, but I didn't. But and you saying that, I just feel like wow, what a special space and gifting that is to be able to
Yeah,
provide that for people. And that's really amazing. Um,
yeah. Thank you. And so, um, with that, I think it was important for me to pursue the MFT degree.
mhm,
Truthfully, I don't really do couples, I don't do family work, right? But I chose MFT because kind of through the lens of how we see dysfunction,
I
right? So
see.
for MFTs, dysfunctions come from relationships. What was your relationship like?
Mm,
Attachment bonding, right? With your family. How are you projecting that to your partner today,
mm,
right? Hey, are you able to have effective communication, setting boundaries, right? Advocating for yourself with your friend group, right? What kind of relationship do you have with yourself today, right? And
mm.
so, sort of that through that lens is that's why I chose MFT, as
Okay.
opposed to the other sort of
What are
routes.
the other ones?
Like for example, clinical social worker, right? So
Okay.
for them, they see dysfunction classically, through the lens of resources or the lack of resources. So if eight
Oh,
people live in a single bedroom, yeah, you're gonna have some issues. If you don't have access to, healthcare, nutritious food, yeah, you're gonna have some issues, right? And so it's
mm,
much different as opposed to maybe then a school psychologist, right? By helping with some of the assessments, ADHD, IEPs, right? Learning disabilities, or a psychiatrist through the lens of medicine, right? And so,
mm. Okay. So, typically, I was gonna ask, like, I know we specified what kind of clients come to see you, but why would uh somebody seek out an MFT? Does that make sense?
yeah. And so, I think many people, when they look for therapists, I think
Uh-huh.
in broad strokes, just look for counseling and
Okay.
look for therapist, right? And
Uh-huh.
so, we can be categorized as a counselor, a therapist, and
I
I think,
see.
and that's where they come to the center, and then they read my profile and be like, I think we'd be a good fit,
Mm.
and then we work together. And so, even though classically, I was sharing with you, sort of these are the lens that we see the dysfunction through. But I
Uh-huh.
think in practice, a lot of us, we really do the same work because in school, when we learn, we all
Uh-huh.
learn the same thing:
I see.
psychoanalytic, psychodynamic, cognitive behavioral therapy, emotionally focused therapy, right? And then for us, we just kind of pick and choose what works to us as a clinician, right? And then we do therapy work, right? In
What
session.
type of person would make a good therapist?
Yeah. What kind of person would make a good therapist? I think kind of the textbook answer I would tell you is a good therapist would have their own therapist.
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you a good therapist would be someone who can hold a conversation,
Hmm.
right? But I think also if I had to choose among all the different traits, I think the one thing I would say is probably posture of curiosity.
Huh.
Like why? Oh, like that really happened. Right? Wait, did you ever feel like that before? Right? And so I
Mm.
think and so like you're exploring things together, right? And I think that's what helps kind of people feel safe, dig deeper, be curious about themselves, right? Be
Mhm.
self-reflective, right? And so I think that's really helpful in part of this. And it's
Mm.
also too like having a posture of curiosity, you start looking at yourself as a therapist. What could
Mhm.
I do better? What parts, did I miss? Right? How do I need to live my life so I show, you know, better?
Mhm.
Or how do I go through this so then I can have bigger empathy for my clients, right? You start
Mm.
wondering these things for yourself as well, right? So I
Mhm.
think curiosity is really important.
Huh. I don't think I would have thought that, but that's really good. Okay, great. That's good to I thought you were gonna say, like, a good listener, like, those kind of things, which I'm sure are important, but okay,
Yeah,
posture of curiosity.
yeah,
Kinda
yeah,
like
yeah.
ministry, I guess.
Yeah,
A little
yeah,
bit,
yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The listening part is practice. You can learn. I used to be a horrible
Ah.
listener. I used to be a horrible listener,
What?
right?
Really?
But you practice. You can take notes along the way,
Mm,
right? Kind of re-ask. Can you remind me what your wife's name was again? Right, and they'll tell you, right? And so, yeah,
I see. Did you hear that, guys? You can practice listening. Um, okay, so, like, I've got to know, like, Cal Poly Pomona Mike that I met 17 years ago. I have to say, I'm gonna be completely transparent. I hope you're not
Yeah,
offended.
I want to
Yeah, I would
know.
have never thought MFT, like, 17 years from now. Um, I Roy, what did you study at Cal Poly Pomona anyways?
Oh, microbiology.
Oh, it's not what
Yeah,
I thought either. But
yeah, yeah.
okay, so can you take me back, like, all the way to college, and, how did you, end up here with me today talking about this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, before I kind of share that, can I ask you, what were your impressions of me back in college?
No, I'm scared. I don't Okay, alright. So, if I'm honest.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so,
yeah.
um like we said, we had that mutual friend, who was a mentor to me and an older
She?
sister
Mhm,
figure to you, and you
mhm,
came and
mhm.
hung out at UCI, and yeah, she would just say, "Oh, like this is Mike, and he goes to Cal Poly, and he's gonna hang out with us today." Or if I was doing Bible study that day, he'd be like, "Oh, he's gonna hang out and do Bible study," or like just observe or whatever. And then I thought, okay, like that's cool, but then I also thought like, oh, like I felt like you were not the word is not like okay, honestly, the word that comes to mind is punk, but it wasn't but that's not what it was. It was more like this oppa that didn't know what he wanted to do in life, and he was like seeking it. Like he was like trying to figure it out. Like you weren't really happy or satisfied with where you were, and then like you just were like seeking things, new things, and
No.
maybe posture of curiosity, I don't know. But um that's like my honest, like, if I look, not just like a outside view, it was just like, what did I really think about this guy that would come hang out? It was like, oh, like, that's cool. I like hanging out with people. He seems nice. Oh, I wonder what his story is. And then I just
Yeah.
kind of would think, oh, maybe he's just like just trying to figure it out like me, even though you're older than me. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah,
no?
yeah, 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 yeah. No, no, no. That's kind of that description
Uh-huh.
is like not the first time I heard that, right? And so that's kind of been kind of
Oh.
yeah, yeah. And so that's kind of been my persona for I guess many years until I sort of had this transformational change inside of me. So for me, right, like part of the story you're asking, like yeah, since college, how did I get here? But college was actually when I was most depressed, most angry. So part of the story actually goes from the very beginning for me,
Oh man.
right? So, I grew up, immigrant family,
Okay.
in the Bay Area, right? But I grew up in a very chaotic, abusive, just home, right?
Mm,
I was physically beat, sexually molested, right? I was just berated on.
mm,
And so for even from a young age, I grew up very angry, right? I think that's where the punkness comes from. I grew up very angry,
mm.
right? And so, and so my friends became my family, and I always found ways to hang out with them, and I get in trouble and all of that. And so, um, and I guess like part of how I ended up Cal Poly is an important piece to this too. Is I actually was supposed to go to UCSD. I was
Oh.
supposed to, but the summer before uh, starting college, I did a prank on high school campus, right? And so, long story short, I lit some firecrackers while the football team was having summer practice, and while they're sleeping overnight in the gymnasium. I got caught, and so I got charged with two felonies, right? One with having explosives on campus with intent to blow it up, and the other conspiracy because I did with a group of friends, right? Um, I got locked up for a bit. I got kicked out of UCSD, so I'm looking around for schools to get to, and Cal Poly Pomona was the only school that accepted me, right?
That
And so
was
that's
your
how I got.
senior year?
After I graduated senior year, going into college,
Oh
right?
my word,
And
Mike.
so my high
That's
school gave UCSD a heads up. What happened? UCSD was like, no, no, So they kicked me out. And so that's why I was at Cal Poly Pomona, right? So at Cal Poly Pomona, like I'm going around raging in Vegas, right? Like I used to get straight F semesters, like truthfully, like straight F semesters, right?
mm,
And just messing around and all of that. And so, I actually wanted to go to art school, and so but then I couldn't go to art school because my parents didn't let me go to art school, right?
Oh,
So I picked
this kind of sounds
microbiology,
vaguely familiar, actually, the
right?
art school thing. But okay,
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
because like I can work with my hands in the laboratory, so I chose microbiology, and so I got into graduate school for microbiology, and then halfway through, my mom calls me. Right, my mom calls me. It's like, "Hey, you gotta come home." Right, and so um, I come home, I pack everything up, go back up to San Jose, and I realize,
Halfway through grad school?
mhm,
Okay, okay.
right, and then my mom's like, "Hey, mom and dad got a divorce, and I'm many months behind on mortgage. I need your help." I was like, "What?" Right, and so I'm like now like picking up different jobs. I'm getting resentful. I'm getting more angry at my dad. Like, how can you just pick up and leave? Right, and so
Mm,
by this time, like I'm starting to like not talk to him for many many years.
mm,
Right. And so, I was kind of working there, and then I ended up working at Stanford doing research, laboratory research, and then by the grace of God, I ended up at Apple. Apple, I was a PM for the App Store, helping developers get onto the App Store and all of that, right? And so, kind of in that season, I thought I was like a man, right? At a young age, I got promoted, making good money, comfortable lifestyle. I used to have two cars, right?
a
Like a
PM is a project manager or
a product manager,
product manager?
right?
Okay,
Product manager,
that's crazy.
um,
Okay.
and I was overseeing the operations of parts of Asia, having a lot of power and all of these things, right? And so, kind of that same season, I was still angry, and I was really driven to succeed in the worldly ways because I
Mm,
wanted to prove my dad wrong because I was told, I'm worthless. I've been told that by my dad that I'm
mm,
going to be worthless, so I wanted to prove him wrong, right? And so I was chasing that dream, right? Chasing those things. And so interestingly enough, in that same season too, I had a friend who invited me to become a youth leader for the senior boys. Like he's a good friend. It's like, all right, I'll rough him up. I'll rough up the boys. Let's do it, right? And that winter season, there's a youth retreat, right? And I don't know why. I don't know why. But in one of the worship sessions, I had a God moment, right? And I saw this little light floating, and God just speaking to me and saying, "Hey, all these pains you've experienced from your family, like I gave them to you for a reason,
mm,
right?" And all of my anger just like dissipated, and I felt a big sense of peace, right?
that's
So I
crazy.
was like, and that's a little woo woo, but for me, I know it was real, and so I just
Mm,
was like, okay, what do I do with it? All right, and just kind of went on with life, right? And so then I was dating this girl, and then out of the blue, she broke up with me. I was like, what are you doing breaking up with me? Like I'm like hot stuff, like at Apple, making good
mm,
money, like I'm on it, right? And all of these things. Like, what do you mean you're breaking up with me? She cited emotional abuse. Went right over my head. I was like, I don't know what that is. But I went to my mom and told her, hey, this is what she said. Right? This is what she said. And my mom was like, your dad used to do the exact same things. It
mm,
broke me because I wanted so desperately to be different than my dad,
mm,
right? And so my mom was like, "Go to therapy." I was so desperate. I was like, "I went to therapy," right? And so in therapy, I'm bawling my eyes out every week,
mm.
daddy issues, right? And all of
Gosh.
that. And so I remember like the therapist asked, I would ask like, "Do you love yourself?" The F does that mean? Like I got mad at her. I was like, "The F does that mean? Do I love myself? I got things to do, people to see, places to go. Do I love myself? What are you talking about?"
Mm,
Right? But then that's a really interesting question. So I kind of held on to it. And as a manager, managing a team, leading a team at Apple, managing a team at Apple, I used to take people for coffee walks around the block, right? And it was supposed to be about work, but it became very personal. Hey, how's your wife after the operation? Hey, how's your son doing on the soccer team? And I really enjoyed it. It became very personal. And so in those spaces, I started asking them, do you love yourself? And they'd be like, I don't know what that means. Neither do I, right? And so we just like walk and talk. We would just walk and talk, right? And so I'm still going to therapy and all that. I started thinking like, do I still want to be part of Apple? Right? Do I
mm,
still want to be part of this rat race? I started getting a little tired from Apple and all of that. And then I started wondering, should I be a therapist? Right? In my ignorance, I was like, therapist is for crazy people, it's for women, it's for emo
mm,
people, right? And so like that's not for me. I'm like alpha male, right? Like I want to be top dog. All I care about is machismo and the money, right? And all of that. Then like there's this like voice, like, to think about therapy. And so I slowly started asking people if I should be a therapist. And surprisingly, everybody said yes, my friends and family. I went to a wedding, um, and I saw my undergrad friends from Cal Poly Pomona, and
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen them for years, right? And so very like, um, I guess shyly, like, being a little shy, I was like to my roommate, like, should I be a therapist? Right? And this guy, we used to go to Vegas together. We used to smoke cigarettes together, go chase girls together, ride motorcycles together, right? And he was like, hell yeah. Remember when that girl broke up with me and we sat outside the apartment in the stairwell and smoked cigarettes all night and talked about her? Right? Like, you really helped me. Like, you'd be a great therapist. I was like, really?
Oh my
Right? Like,
gosh.
even my non-Christian friends were for me. I was like, I gotta go chase this. I gotta see what's out there.
Mm,
Right. And so I think in that season, I was like looking around, and then there weren't very many schools in the Bay Area at the time. And so I think
okay.
that's when I wanted to change the scenery. And so I applied to APU, Azusa Pacific. I went down to school in SoCal, and then kind of started that journey. So that in itself was like another, like another journey in itself. But like that's kind of like how I got into MFT, right? So a lot of that like pondering, right? Working through that anger, right? Like, and all of that. And so, and a God moment. So
That's crazy. Like
yeah,
crazy
yeah, yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Man, so many things. I feel like as you were sharing, sure, God moments, but also just I mean, I'm putting myself in your shoes about like when you were working for Apple too, right? Like feeling like on top of the world, in the world's eyes, and having everything that you need and financially and things, and just kind of shifting just 180 and realizing. I mean, when you went to Azusa, like simultaneously, were you like working stuff out in your own?
100%, 100%, right? And so, I took a leap of faith, went to Azusa, right?
Uh-huh.
And like, I think in the beginning years, there are two things that I remember, right? One, I used to like my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, Lizzie, amazing woman, right? I used to call her on the phone. It was a long distance relationship. I used to bawl my eyes out
Mm,
because like I don't have the money anymore. I don't have the status anymore. Who am I? Who am I
mm,
gonna be? Right? And I used
yeah.
to bawl my eyes out to her, right?
Yeah.
And then you show up to class, right? And then I remember I starting school and I thinking like I'm gonna be number one. Everybody's gonna know I'm the best. I'm gonna get the best internships,
Yeah.
right? But then the moment I walked in, it's a room full of white women. Oh shoot. Oh, okay. Okay. Right. Like I'm not white. I'm not a woman. Right. And this just
Mm,
flood of insecurity came. Maybe
wow.
this isn't the place for me.
Wow.
Right. And I had to work through that.
Mm,
Right. And it took years to go through that. Right. Because and then sorry, and the people, the classmates, they were so nice. I love them. I love them. Right. They're so nice. But like, in the beginning years, I'd be like, well, I don't have a psychology or sociology undergrad
sure. Yeah.
degree. Right. I didn't work in ministry. I'm not a grandma or a mom. I don't have maternal instincts. Right. Like I don't fit in. Like a lot of them are twos, Enneagram twos, helpers. I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm a
Oh.
pit bull. Right? So, right? Like I'm a pit bull. I'm a bull in a china shop. That's what I felt like, right? This isn't the
Mm,
place for me, right? So I felt out of place, right? But I had to work
mm.
through that, right? And so, um, yeah, it was
That's
hard in the beginning.
amazing.
Yeah,
That is so
yeah.
fascinating too. You know, my sister-in-law, I literally in June, she just graduated from Azusa with MFT. Yeah, yeah. And it honestly, okay, this is like a sidebar, everybody, but David and I, my husband, we were visiting my family in SoCal for a month, and then her thankfully we were able to attend her graduation. That Azusa graduation for this MFT class was the most enjoyable, like honoring, like, and dare I say, like even spirit filled graduation. Like
Mm,
I was weeping the entire time. I don't know why, but it was just you could feel these MFT's accomplishment and and they were ready. Like they were ready to help people. And I would like my husband and I, we were choked up the entire time. I was like, I looked at him like, what is going on? Are we okay? Like,
Yeah.
but it was so great. And so I'm almost like, you're her 선배, like the one has gone before her. And I would like to say that this class was extremely diverse and full of a lot of men, a lot of
Yeah.
different ethnicities. And so to hear you say it too, I'm like, wow, what strides, have been made since your class has graduated even. And
Yeah.
anyways, just a small sidebar, but
Yeah, and so, well, since then, searching for school, the MFT field, I guess mental health, it's really, really exploded, right?
yeah.
So there's a lot of programs here. There's more talks about it, right? The stigma is slowly melting away,
Hmm,
right?
hmm.
And so a lot of people are starting to look into it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like one, I mean, I am all for, mental health and therapy, and I think it is extremely helpful and um, very important, right? To just kind of do the work in order to. I hate to over spiritualize things, but as a Christian myself, like this abundant life that Jesus calls us to, I think it's waiting, but the work has to be done
For
first.
sure.
Yeah. And
For sure.
so that's what I'm realizing myself. And so I'm so grateful that people are, the stigma is kind of melting away, like you said. I do have a question though for you.
Mhm.
As an Asian American, are a lot of your clients Asian? Am I allowed to ask that?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
have a lot of Asian clients?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I do have a lot of Asian clients,
Mm.
and that's something that I had to learn, right? And so going back to school, a lot of my insecurity, like I was trying to do a lot of things. I was trying to show people that I know all the theories and I know
Mm.
how to do it. I'm the smartest and all of these things. And actually, one of my supervisors was like, Mike, like you're always doing, just be.
Oh.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
I love
Right? And
it.
it just straight up flew over
Right.
my head.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I had to learn that concept, right? That maybe me just being me draws a certain type of crowd.
Yeah.
Right? I was listening to a podcast, you saying, hey, at the height of your coaching, 17 of your students, right, were Asian. Right? What did
That's
you have
right.
to do with it? Nothing, right? But just be,
Yeah. That's
right?
right.
And so in that, I think people that um, on the client side, right, the
Mhm.
patient side, they'd be like, oh, that person, right? That
Mm.
person would resonate with me, or that person would understand me, right?
Mhm.
And so they seek me out, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah, right. Because I think us as Asian people too, there are things that we experience that white body people, American people, right? It's just not part of their culture,
Mhm.
right? The
Mhm.
nuance,
Mhm.
unspoken, right? Maybe pressures or tendencies and expectations, right? But as an Asian person, I get it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so I can rock with you, walk with
Mhm.
you, right? I get it, right? And so
Yeah.
that helps us too,
Yeah,
So
that's what I was gonna ask. Like, I was like gonna ask you about. So, is that helpful as a tool? Like, is that something that I just kind of think is a thing? Like, oh, because I'm Asian, I understand you better because you're Asian. Or have you found even in trauma, there's a relatable piece that you can understand maybe better than somebody else that's not Asian American?
yeah, I think it's not something I actively kind of think about or
Okay.
try to advertise,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had a client once tell me, like, Mike, like I actually like working with you because you actually create space for me to talk. I was like, what? What are you talking about? It's like, yeah, my previous therapist was white, and he always cut me off, right? And so I thought about it. I was like, that's an interesting statement. So I think like white people, if you think about someone kind of described this to me, and I think it made sense for me. So I want to share with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
When white people talk, it's like playing basketball, right? There's a lot of passing the ball. There's a lot of playing defense, right? Kind of like banters back and forth, and then and then there's a slam dunk that happens. Like someone makes a dad joke or makes makes a like a statement. Asian people, we're bowlers, We go bowling. I bowl, then you bowl, then I bowl, then you bowl, right? I think like that benefited, right? Those tendencies showed up in the therapy space where I was able to kind of create some silence and space for him to sit and process after he speaks. And he appreciated that. Did I do that? No, right? But it's just part of how I show up because that is the experience that I've had,
That
right? That
is
also goes, yeah,
no, I think that's
that,
fascinating.
yeah. And so that even goes to my trauma, right? And so like I've had addictions, right? I've had
Mm,
suicidal thoughts.
mm,
So when you talk about suicide, I won't flinch,
mm,
but I'll be here in this deep, dark space and just sit with you, right? Am I trying to do something? No, I just sit here, right?
mm,
And so I think kind of clinically for me, like the imagery I have is like you're just a friend who's lost his way home. Do I
mhm.
know where you live? I don't know where you live, but I'll walk with you till you find home.
Yeah.
I'll walk with you, right? We can kick the can, we can talk, right? And you won't be alone, right? There's no doing in the process, right? It's just being,
Mm.
right? And so that's kind of the process. So, you know, and so yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know why. I'm so emotional right now. I just feel like what is this feeling? I just went to therapy. I don't know. No, I think what you just said about
Yeah.
just doing you,
Yeah.
and that is bringing healing to people, is so powerful and just speaks volumes about not just who you are, but maybe even like just people. You know what? Like, just people. Me, everyone that's listening. I think there's a lot of power in what you just said, and I think that's why I it just like kind of hit me like a dagger in the heart. But wow, that's really
Yeah. And so these are,
something.
yeah, matters of the heart, right? And so then I try to help clients experience this, right? And this is a
Mm,
truth that they will continually have to tell themselves until the heart believes, right? And that's why I'm in
mhm.
private practice because these things take time,
Time, yes, yes.
right? Yeah.
I know some people you got to see, Mac. No, I'm just kidding. um, oh, which by the way, just so like you're licensed in California, is that
Mhm.
so? Like, can you practice like in other states?
So there is kind of confusing rules, but ultimately I can be anywhere. I can be in another state,
Uh
but my
huh.
client has to primarily reside in California.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Why is that? I mean, it's not like therapy could be that much different, could it?
I think different states just have different requirements, as you know, and then to become a therapist. I think California just has its own rules, and then
Oh,
nationally there's another standard. So California is, I think, just a little bit more strict,
I see.
you know. And so
Okay.
I think, you know, one of the questions that you often ask your guest is like, what is something you don't like about your work, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it is the barrier to entry is sometimes hard, right? Because
Mm,
after we finish school,
mm-hmm.
right? Now we have 3,000 hours that we need to earn,
Mm-hmm.
right, to become licensed, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
that,
what I hear. It's like a lot of
yeah, it's
hours.
like 3,000 hours. But for clinicians, for us, we don't work 40 hours. Our full week for us is 20 to 25,
I see.
right? On
So
top
how
of
do you
that,
get
we
those
have,
hours?
yeah, you just got to grind, right? So, right, on top of that, you know, you can grind, join an agency, do a private practice, right? But then your lower fee, you know, you get a lot of your fee taken out, right? And so for a lot of the pre-licensed folks financially, becomes really hard without supportive family,
I see.
right?
I
And,
see.
and so I have a friend who I graduated with. I mean, he actually was part of working at addiction clinic.
Uh-huh.
Addiction is hard in itself, but after a
Mm.
year, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he quit because he got burnt out. But financially, he had pressure, so he needed to work. But he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he left.
Mm.
And that sucks. I need more brothers in this field, you know?
Mm.
And so, yeah, that's tough.
Okay, so typically how long did it take you to fulfill your hours?
Um, so I graduated in December of 2020, and
Uh-huh.
then I just got licensed in February 2023. So I
Oh,
don't know, about 2.5 years, right? And so I want to say um, that's on the fast track, right?
Okay.
On the fast track. And so that's God's blessing. And I was able to, yeah, finish fast. Now, I think part of that, again, is that people see me on a page and be like, I want an Asian therapist. There aren't very many Asian therapists. So many
Mm,
clients will come want to see me. So my caseload was full. I was
I
very lucky
see.
with that.
I see.
So in the same way that I said, hey, when I walked in the classroom, a lot of people were white women, right? And I felt out of place. Well, they're kind of trying to fill those hours because if you look at a page, there's a ton of white women. How
Mm-hmm.
do I choose
Mm-hmm.
between A and B,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so for them, they need to do a bit more marketing, putting themselves out there to get clients.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me, I could just be,
Mm,
and they showed up,
yeah,
right?
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That is a blessing.
yeah.
Okay, so after you fulfill your hours, do you have to take another test?
So there's a state exam, right? And so there's a state exam like do you know your theories? Do you know, how to do crisis management, right? Treatment planning. Yeah. So there's another test that you got to take, a 4-hour test. Yeah.
4-hour test?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My goodness. Is it in parts?
No, straight through.
Oh my
So
goodness, really?
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy. Okay, but you deserve it. You deserve to be a licensed therapist now.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, hmm. Do you feel you said that part of your week looks like you going to therapy yourself,
Mhm,
right? So these things that, maybe came up as you were getting therapy through schooling, through your Azusa program and all this
mhm.
stuff, and kind of figuring out your own trauma and how to, move into your identity and things like that. Is that always a work in progress? Is there a point where, like, okay, you don't need therapy anymore?
Oh, I don't know. I think I will always need therapy,
Mm.
right? Um, yeah, because even if I become healthier, become wiser,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be aware of more blind spots in my life.
Mm.
Then I gotta do more work, right?
Mm.
And part of the reason why I do this work is so I can show up healthier for my family.
Mhm.
But also, I need to do the work because I can't take clients into spaces I've never been,
Mm.
right? And so I do for the clients, I do for my family, I do for me because I deserve it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. What about your clients though? Like, is there ever a time where you're like, okay, I think your therapy is done?
Yeah, and so, that's truthfully, my
Uh,
experience, that's kind of, rare because a lot
okay,
of clients will be
okay.
like, I'm good," and they just stop showing up. They just stop showing up. And so part of the job, that's why it's lonely and it's thankless because when they think they're good, they just stop showing up,
Oh, I see. I mean, I
right?
guess it's a cost too
Right?
for
Yeah,
them.
there's a cost, right, and all of that, and I fully understand. Therapy is a necessity,
Uh-huh.
but it's also a luxury, so I
Right,
fully
right,
understand,
right.
right? And so but, I think many people have a hard time just saying, "Hey, the fee is difficult, so I'm gonna kinda cancel my, sessions,"
I see, I
right?
see.
So a lot of people are avoid, right? So
I
they just,
see.
like, skip a session and then, "Okay," and then second session. I get the hint, right? I'll send an
Mm,
email out just to check in, I'll leave a voicemail, but if they don't respond, I get the hint, right?
mm.
And so, but that is, part of the work, therapy work.
Yes.
That's the work I wish I could do with you to help
Mm.
you grow the confidence to be able to enter into difficult conversations,
Oh.
right?
Yes.
Right? Because nothing wrong with saying, hey, like I need to manage my finances. I support it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
right.
There's the Pitbull Enneagram 8 right there. No, I'm just- um,
Yeah.
but okay, so what you're saying is clients will let you go, but it's very rare that you would ever be like, okay, I think you're good.
I think it's time for us to,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I see.
Yeah, I
Um,
at least like since like I'm kind of in the beginning years of kind of my work as well too.
sure.
So maybe I'm not at that a part in therapy where I'm at the end stage, the sunsetting stage yet for many
Hmm.
people. I don't know.
So what do you like most about your job, Mike?
Oh, people have fascinating stories.
Yeah. They do.
absolutely fascinating stories, right? If you take a moment to listen, right?
Mm,
Yeah, some of it is hard to listen to because it's like traumatic, but
mm,
also it is fascinating. And so I love that part, just learning about people.
mm. Yeah, people are really fascinating. It's really shocking sometimes.
Yeah.
Kind of like you.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
fascinating. Okay. Is there something that I mean, I usually ask people like for advice and stuff, but I'm curious, was there something like that maybe I didn't ask that you wanted to share about, whether it's your job or just your life or anything that I missed? If not, that's okay. But
I don't know. Nothing really comes to the top of my mind.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have any advice then for people listening that are maybe like, hey, maybe I want to be an MFT, or just any life advice at all?
I think, you know, cliche responses. I think I want to leave people with, um, remind them that whatever struggle they're going through, this too shall pass,
Hmm.
right? It's not going to be forever.
Mm-hmm.
One of the quotes that I hold on to is something Phil used to always say to me: grass is not green on the other side, grass is green where you water it.
That's so good.
And, and
That's so
so
good.
everybody go listen to his podcast. You
Yes.
know, when I grow up, I want to be a VC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the third is be kind to yourself, right? Because life is
Mm,
already hard. It's hard.
mm,
It's hard, right? In time, the opportunity will come,
mm.
right? Right?
That's
Opportunity
good.
will come. Yeah, like
Yes.
you wish you could have been accepted to that job or that
Mm,
school, right? Okay, right? But you already have a lot of pressure, especially what's going on today in this climate, with the economy, social political climate, you know, kind of your own family baggage. You're doing your best,
mm.
right? If you could have done better, you would have. I fully believe you would have done better, right? So be kind to yourself. Just be. Yeah.
So good. So good. Yes. I'm going to take that
Right.
advice for myself right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I hate to put you on the spot, but we are coming to the end of our conversation, and I usually ask people if there's somebody listening that maybe has questions about how to go about being an MFT, or more about what it's like to be an MFT. Would you be open to connecting with them maybe through email?
For sure, for sure. We need more people of color in this field. So I
Mm,
will always make time. Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, if you listeners want to reach out to me, shoot me an email at therapyflows@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. As you heard Mike say, if you want to connect, you can email him at therapyflows@gmail.com, or you can get in contact with me and I'll connect you. You can email me at podcastwigu@gmail.com, or you can DM me. Mike, can't thank you enough for your story. I truly, I, I don't know. I don't really get emotional during these conversations, but for me personally, I just feel like the journey that you've been on till now, just so much. I don't. The word that comes to my mind is favor, honestly, and I'm so grateful to have been able to hear it, and even like to have known you 17 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, just to it was only a few times, and I didn't know what you were going through then. I had no idea. And it's just the sovereignty of God is like so crazy. Yes, people, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. So good. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime. Guys, until next time. Bye.